All right, so lofts, as it states here, are made from two or more profiles. So you can see in this screen grab here, it's lofting from this circle to this oval. And what it does, SolidWorks just kind of blends the two shapes together. You can have lofts that are multiple profiles long. So if this were then to go back out to a circle above here, it would kind of like shrink in and shrink out like an accordion. You could do that as much as you like. When I was in school, they made us loft a toothbrush, which is really not the best. Well, it's not a wrong way to build it, but was one way to build it. Profiles can be sketches, faces, or surfaces. So in this case, we're just selecting faces to create this first loft. And I'll jump into SolidWorks in a minute here, but just some things you're looking at in the property dialog. Here, the first box is when you go into a loft feature, it asks you for what the faces are that you're lofting or the profiles are. Underneath that is something called start and end constraints. I'll show you that in a minute. And then guides. Guides are useful for making the loft do what you want it to do. Just some general tips here on lofts. It helps if your profiles are similar. So for example, it has the same number of corners. So whenever you could loft like a square to a pentagon, it's just going to be weird. SolidWorks is going to have to make up what happens to that fifth corner, and often it just disappears somewhere. In general, in SolidWorks, it's always better if you're working on a symmetric object to work in halves or quarters even. And this is specifically true for lofts, and we'll see that this is built into the demo, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. This is, again, building on this previous thing. Using guide curves can control your blend. So ideally for connecting corners, which again is why it's good to loft in halves and quarters, it gives you corners with which to build guide curves on. And again, this demo will show you that. Remember that a loft can go any direction. So if you're trying to loft this from bottom to top and it's not working, you can try going left to right. And again, the demo kind of covers all of these 4 tips. Okay, so feel free to follow along, but just diving right in here and speaking about some of these. This is your starting file that is given to you. Again, hopefully to just speed this along. Some things to note is this second extrude is not merged. Merge result is not checked. So as a result, we have 2 separate bodies. So this face is a complete circle. If it was merged, this face would be a circle with an oval cut into it. So lofted boss base located right here. If I go ahead and click this, here's the property. Again, it's asking me what profiles I want. The first step is to just play with this. This is the most basic loft you can make, or one of, just simply clicking 2 faces, having it go to each other. There is this thing. I don't know if it has a name. I called it the rough blend control. Very scientific. But if you'll notice, if I drag this around, it makes weird things happen to the loft, right? It twists it. Generally, you want this to go straight, and sometimes this can be important if your loft isn't working. If this loft obviously has no corners, but typically this will snap to a corner if you have it. So let's look into some start and end constraints here. So there's a lot of options. More often than not, I use these 2, normal to profile and tangency to face. Normal to profile is like a 90-degree relationship. So if you have a sketch, setting it normal to the sketch means that it will start as a tangent 90-degree coming out from it. So for example, here's our starting. It starts at the bottom. If I tap normal to profile here, you'll notice you see this arrow, it sends it straight up. And you can see that the loft kind of balloons out like that. Tangency to face has a similar effect. In this case, the side face, but you can always click next face and it'll do a different one. So now suddenly we have this like mushrooming effect. If I change this number, it changes how powerful the effect is. This is not an ideal way to control a loft. It's better to do it with guide curves. If you think about your Jenga tower, a better Jenga tower is using sketches to guide this. But this is kind of a quick way if you're playing, for this project, if you want some of this stuff to design some of the knobs this way, that's okay with me. Just know it's not really best practice. And again, end constraints, same thing, tangency to face. So you can also flip direction, right? So this was pushing the blend up, which is kind of weird. You can see it leads to this weird lip in here. That's not best practice. That's actually not good. If you flip it down, that's totally fine. So again, same thing here with this. If we switch this face to this top one, if you flip this in, it'll push the loft in. So basically the first step in here is to make this basic loft and just play with it. You can play with some of these things. What does it have you do? It then just has you, yeah, just find something you like and then click the check mark. Now you'll notice some weird things happen, right? Like you can see this is not ideal SolidWorks, where this internal form is kind of breaking through the loft. That's not really good. But anyway, once you play with that basic loft, it's having you suppress this, because that's just kind of the intro as a basic loft. And now we're going to do something a little bit more controlled. So this is a rebuild bar. I've mentioned it in passing, but it's a way to kind of like roll through the tree and work in different areas. It makes more sense the larger your trees get. But it has, the file opens, it starts here. It has you, once you save this loft, just drag this down below the surface cuts. And what I've done for you here is I have created, cut this so that you can work in quarters. So once you do that, it asks you to make a new right plane sketch. And it says set it up how it's shown. So Alt-N makes us look normal to this. Oh, sorry, it says new front plane sketch first. It doesn't matter, honestly. New front plane sketch. And this is kind of the view you want. Basically, you're making an arc from this point. So again, look at how my workflow is. I hover over this point until it turns orange, and I click on that. That means that it's now coincident. They're attached. Same thing up here. I hover over this corner, it turns orange, and I click on it. And now I have an arc that's attached to those two corners. I'm going to bend it so that the arc goes inwards like this. Now it asks you to, so the next thing to do to create the sketch is to add this line. This line will control the tangency and the amount of this arc. So I'm going to draw a line here. Now watch what happens. If I hover, is that working? It's not working. If you leave this like a little bit out, oopsies. I believe it should snap to tangent. Let me hit Alt-N to make this normal. There you go. So if you're looking at this at a normal view, so like a 90-degree view, like you're looking down on a sheet of paper, as I make this line, can you see the yellow on the screen up there? It's kind of hard to see. But if I go to this yellow line, do you see how that tangency rule appears? If I click on that, it's now going to add that rule. I'll hit Escape to get out of the line tool. It now adds that rule to this. And now as I control this line, it controls how much this arc is curved. So those are just some workflow things to remember, that if you hover and like align things, you can add rules as you build. It should make your life easier. We want to set this line to be for construction. If you hit Alt-N again, it will flip the view. So in this case, I'm seeing the curved face. I know that I am because of the shading. Here, this is the flat face. What I want to do is create a dimension from this top line to this. And you want to give it a relationship of 85 degrees. And now we have this. This is going to be a guide curve for our loft in a minute. Once you have that, you can hit Exit. I'll do this as quickly as I can. Exact same thing on the right plane here. So new right plane sketch. I clicked on the right plane and hit Alt-S. Get my arc in there, Escape. Get my line in here, see if it gives me tangency option. It doesn't, so I just throw it in there. Select both and just say tangent. Set this to be for construction. D for dimension, take this edge and this, and set this to be 85. And now we have two guide curves, and I'm going to hit Exit on there. So now it asks you to go back into the loft feature. Oh, I'm sorry, did this cut off? It appears to have cut off, I apologize. Step 5 appears to be a sentence without a finished end here. It says, lofted boss base with the dark yellow profiles here and here, and the purple guide curve shown left. The arc guides are the blank. What it says is the arc guides are the sketches, and the straight guide is an edge. And what happened is this image apparently went over it or something, or I deleted it, so apologies there. So you go to lofted boss base, click on that. The profiles, again, is this pizza slice and this oval slice. So here is immediately you can see an issue. Do you see this rough guide curve or rough guideline is like going from wrong corner to wrong corner. It's adding this weird twist. If I drag this dot to this corner, it'll help solve that problem for me. Now for guide curves, I'll click in here. I'm going to click on this sketch, and then I'm going to click on this sketch. And you'll notice what it does is it kind of bows the blend out on this side. So again, as my third guide sketch, I'm going to click on this edge here. And now this is our quarter loft. And you can go ahead and click check. And this is like a better way to guide a loft. It leaves less to random chance. You have it controlled with sketches. You can always go in and edit this blend angle, and that will change how much this is curved. So step 5, again, you're creating this loft. It's very similar to the first loft we created, top to bottom, and it's using these guide curves. Now, again, I apologize on this sheet. A couple of these things are missing. You'll notice it goes from step 5 to step 7. I believe step 6 is just asking you to click the checkbox and then suppress it, just like it's shown here. So I'm going to go ahead and check this. Here's my new loft. Now we're going to suppress this. And so now this loft was top to bottom, bottom to top. We're now going to do a loft left to right, which in this demo, the goal was to show you 3 different ways to do a loft. This third way is the best way for this application, and I'll show you why at the end. But if we just go step by step, the next thing that it asks you to do is, again, create a new front plane sketch. So I'm going to click on the front plane and hit Alt-S and Alt-N to look normal to it. I'll hit Alt-N to flip it so I see the flat side. Now on this previously suppressed loft, if you click this little triangle here, you'll see the previously constructed sketches. We're just going to copy them. So I'm going to take the first sketch I made here, and I'm just going to either hit C for convert entities or click on this. And what you're going to do is you're going to complete this into a closed shape. So I hit my line tool. I click on this vertex here, vertex. Whoops. Sometimes it does that. It has a line. I'm going to go over to this middle edge and wait till it says horizontal for me and click. I'm going to go vertically to this top edge, click, and back over here to the arc and click. And now it's highlighted in blue, telling me I have this closed shape. I'm now going to exit the sketch. I'm going to do it again on the right plane. Alt-S, Alt-N, Alt-N flips it. I'm going to hover over this sketch 6. Again, hit C for convert entities. It gives me this arc. L for line, horizontal across, up, and across again. And now I have that completed shape as well. I'm going to hit exit. So now I have these 2 sketches here. Now this is the third way to do a loft. And again, this is the best way for this given application. And I'll explain why in a minute. So now I'm going to go click on lofted boss base again. For the profiles, I'm going to select the 2 sketches I just made. And here you can see again, it's not prompting the yellow because this rough sketch guide is throwing us off. The computer can't solve this problem. It's not solvable at the moment. Instead of fixing this rough sketch guide, I'm first going to try clicking on guide curves and see if that solves my problem first. So I'm going to select this box, highlighting it in blue. It's now asking me for what guide curves do I want. I'm going to click on this top edge. And here you can see this rough guide snap to the bottom, and it highlights it in yellow. So now it knows what I want to do. And now I'm going to click on this bottom edge. And now we have the guide curve going left to right. Now the reason why this method is better is in this instance, we can add a start and end constraint here. And what we want in this instance, it's 2 sketches. We want it to be normal to profile. You'll notice that there isn't faces as an option here. Because it's a sketch, the profile is a sketch, there are no faces on that sketch to reference. So I'm going to click on normal to profile. And here I'm going to click on normal to profile. Now the reason why it's failing, this is incredibly subtle. Do you see this blue thing back here? These 2 blue dots? This is the rough guide. It's like trying to connect this bottom corner to this top corner. I believe if I drag this down, okay, this problem happened last time. So I'm going to back up here. Okay. This is a frustrating SOLIDWORKS thing. Let me get out of this, and I'll show you what the misstep was. Again, profiles, I'm going to select this and this. You want to correct this right away. you want to drag this rough sketch guide down. I don't know why SolidWorks does this. Remember when I clicked on that edge the last time? It kind of corrected it for me. I believe this should fix it. Maybe I should check this out before I speak too soon. Oh, come on now. Okay. Okay, this totally worked last night. I'm not quite sure what's going on now. I'm pretty certain it's linked to this guide not being done right. But it should have worked the second time. Because this normal to profile is important. What it will do is when we mirror this, it's going to make it tangent to that face. And it will show it as smooth. Let me open up this other file for a minute and see if I missed anything. I think my advice to all of you, so I'll be honest, I don't know what's going on. My advice to all of you when you get to this step is set this rough direction guide properly from the get-go. If you recall, remember the first time I did it, I clicked on the edge to see if that corrected it. I'm wondering if that kind of goofed something up, to be honest. So set this up so the loft works before you select your edges, because the next thing you're going to do in guide curves, make sure this is all hidden, is select this edge, and then set this to be normal to profile, and set this to be normal to profile. Okay, it's not working here either. Again, I'll be honest, I'm not sure what's going on. If I close this and open it, the only thing I'm noticing is that this blue dot is down here, and in here, the normal to profile is working. So let's do this. I think there's a workaround if you run into this issue. So I'll go back to my file here. Lofted boss base, select this, whoops. Select this, and then select this. Again, try and set this up properly for the first time. I'm going to try this one more time if this doesn't work. Again, normal to profile and normal to profile. Okay, it appears to be working now, but I'm assuming because it didn't work for me the first time, it will not work for some of you. If that is the case, I believe deleting one of these edges, maybe like the top one, will solve it for you. So let's say delete the top one, okay? If for some reason it's not working, only select the bottom edge and make it normal to profile, and that should solve your problem. I'll be honest, I don't know why it's letting me do it sometimes and other times it's not, because right now it's clearly letting me do it. It appears that the rough guide needs to be at the bottom back corner here in order to work. I don't know why. Again, before you do this, if you set the rough guide from this corner to this corner, it should avoid this problem for you. Anyway, once you have this set up, you can go ahead and click check. If you have an issue and you don't select this top edge here, what I would do under merge results, so I apologize, we're off the page now, like off of the demo page. When it comes to merge result, look down here for feature scope, and instead of auto select, you only want to merge it with this bottom body, because if you don't have this top guide, you may have a weird resulting surface here. So you only want to merge it with this bottom face if you need to do that. And then you can hide this, and here's our resulting knob. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is mirror this to complete the knob. So simply click on the mirror feature, mirror face plane. Again, best practice would be to drop this down and select like front plane. And then here, not features, but bodies. So this is highlighted blue. It's asking you what body to mirror. Mirror this. I tend to uncheck this, but it's not necessary. You do want to merge solids. And then same thing here, we're going to mirror about the right plane, or you can simply select this interface, click on this, and click check. And there you basically have a knob with a controlled loft. Now, you can say that it looks very similar to this first one we did. Maybe if I, maybe kill this one, or which one was it? This is really similar, it's a lot quicker, but honestly, the second way is best practice, just because it gives you a little bit more control over what you've done. If I turn off sketches and I turn off lines here, let's see, did this merge? Merge solids. You should see the surface looks smooth. Can you all see that? There's no seams in between the mirrors. And that's because we lofted it left to right and made the setting within here as normal to profile. That's why this is important. Now, if I give you another example, if I roll this back up and unsuppress this, now watch what happens if I mirror this one. So I'll mirror, I'm just going to do this quick. I'll click on this face, bodies, merge, check, mirror, face, oops, bodies, check. Can you all see what went wrong and why the other loft is better? Yeah, has a little butt crack right here. You don't want that, okay? I will take off points if I see issues like that with your loft, all right? Now, again, the reason why that seam is not on the other file is because with this one, there is no control left to right in terms of tangency. It is possible to select this and look at this down here and say normal to profile. The reason it doesn't work is because it's a single line. It is possible. Really the proper way to do it if you want to loft top to bottom is to actually create surfaces like this and make it tangent to the surface face, but that's like an extra step. And I don't really want to get into surfaces with you all quite yet. I want to introduce it in small piecemeal. So again, that's why it's best if I now suppress this. Well, now of course we have issues. It lost this corner, I'm assuming. Yeah. That's why it's best here to loft left to right and have the setting be normal too. And again, if you ran into the same issue I did, just deselect that top edge. But I think you will avoid that issue if at the beginning of this loft, you just make sure that that you get this like rough tangency guide set up ahead of time at the bottom there.